to the Remnant Canine 360 Bootcamp. We're glad you're here to join us on this exciting journey. To get started, I would like to discuss the methodology we will be using throughout this program. Dog training and animal training in general has come a long way over the years. Traditional training focused on correction with compulsion and physical punishment. While there are still some who insist those methods are necessary, after beginning a professional career with elephants in the early 80s, one where this form of training was commonly used, I witnessed firsthand the damage and dangers that are all too common when applied. While there may be a time for correction, it should never be during the learning process, and rarely, if ever, does it need to be painful or scary. We would never hit a 6-year-old child for spelling a word incorrectly. Instead, we would help the child to understand the proper spelling and to use the word properly in all contexts. Dogs and other animals are not human children, but all animals, including humans, learn in the same ways. If we form a negative association between learning and being in our presence, the learner is going to have a much more difficult time and be much less involved in the learning process. The end goal of this program is to build your dog to be a reliable and productive member of your family. All the future training modules in this program will eventually require that your dog cooperate while at a distance, off leash, and while performing some challenging tasks. You are going to want and in fact need to trust your dog. And in turn, you will need to be someone who your dog can trust and look to for guidance. If your dog questions whether or not it is worth for them to come back to you or to continue with the task at hand, you could be left hanging in a dangerously compromised position. Therefore, your relationship with your dog makes all the difference. It's true, relationships matter. How do you relate to your dog, and how does your dog relate to you? Is your dog included in your life? Do you take any time at all to discover your dog's likes and dislikes? First and foremost, before you even begin training, you should take some time out with your dog and just observe, experiment, and discover. Find different types of food, toys, play, and any other activities that your dog really seems to enjoy. Once you have a list of things to begin with, we can begin. In this program, we will be using reward-based motivational training methods. Those things that you discover that your dog really enjoys can be used to teach new behaviors and build new habits. The 3 most common methods of training we will be using are luring. Luring is where you use a treat to lure the dog into the desired position, and once the dog is in the desired position, the treat is given to the dog. Shaping. Shaping is rewarding small approximations toward a final desired behavior. Capturing. Capturing is rewarding an occurring behavior and putting it on cue. Reinforcement defined is to make stronger. Behavior that is reinforced intentionally or inadvertently will occur more frequently. This isn't an opinion. This is a well-known fact. Habits are formed because they are somehow reinforced. An example of shaping, with the goal being for the dog to put 2 paws on a stool. First, looking at the stool is marked and rewarded. Then moving the slightest bit toward the stool is marked and rewarded. Any physical interaction with the stool is marked and rewarded. 1 foot up on the stool is marked and rewarded. 2 feet on the stool is marked and rewarded heavily. Once a dog is offering 2 feet on the stool consistently, a verbal cue is added to the behavior. Here is an example of capturing. When your dog lies down, you mark and reward. Because the behavior was rewarded, the dog will repeat the behavior and then be rewarded. When the dog is offering the behavior consistently, the verbal cue down would be added as the dog is going into the down position.
Yes. Yes, good boy. Good boy.
Training takes time, but it isn't as time-consuming as most people imagine it to be. Even just a few short, successful sessions a day is enough to yield results. In fact, I recommend that you keep your training sessions short and fun. This is something that should be enjoyable for you and your dog. Loosen up. Don't worry about mistakes. They happen. I want you to look for the success and the progress. This is a journey. Enjoy it. There is no magic collar or other device that is going to make your training faster or better. Your success and your dog's success depends on your reinforcement placement, your timing, your consistency, and your criteria. Have a plan for your session. What are you going to work on? What are you going to reinforce? What is acceptable for you and your dog may be different for someone else. Is it okay if your dog sits sideways at your side? Or do you want your dog sitting parallel with you? Is a little tension on the leash okay? If you aren't clear on what you want and expect, your dog is not going to be clear either. At first, we can reward effort to get it right, but then you will need to decide on what your personal criteria is going to be. What does your finished product look like? Work toward that finished product and stick with it. Be fair to your dog by being clear in what you want. We want your dog and you to be successful, so begin teaching new behaviors in a familiar, non-distracting environment, such as your living room. That's a great place to start. Once the dog is successful, 90% of the time, you can move to another room. Dogs don't generalize. We must teach them to understand that our cues mean the same thing everywhere. Adding distractions is a gradual process. If you move into a more distracting area and your dog is struggling, move back into a less distracting area. Also, keep in mind what you are using to reward your dog will need to be much higher value when the stakes are raised and distractions are added. The more difficult the task, the higher value your reinforcement should be. The reward you give your dog for coming to you in your hallway could be their daily kibble, but the reward your dog receives for calling off a squirrel while off leash in the park should be much higher value. Are you ready to take the journey with your dog? Then let's get started. Hi, this is Jill Powell, co-founder of Remnant Canine 360, with your dog fun facts for the day. The Labrador Retriever has been on the American Kennel Club's top 10 most popular breeds list for 25 consecutive years. That's longer than any other breed. A dog's nose print is unique, much like a person's fingerprint. 45% of U.S. dogs sleep in their owner's bed. Speaking of sleep, all dogs dream, but puppies and senior dogs dream more frequently than adult dogs. 70% of people sign their dog's name on their holiday cards. A dog's sense of smell is legendary, but did you know that his nose has as many as 300 million receptors? In comparison, a human nose has about 5 million. Rin Tin Tin, the famous German Shepherd, was nominated for an Academy Award. The shape of a dog's face suggests its longevity. A long face means a longer life. Dog eyes have a part called the tatum lucidum, allowing night vision. The name collie means black. Collies once tended black-faced sheep. Well, I hope you enjoyed your dog fun facts for the day, and happy training.